Welcome to Beyond I Do. I got it right. I didn't call it Beyond.
I do. Ooh.
Yeah, New Good Booger sucked, man.
It was pretty bad.
But I'm like, it was probably bad when it was a show when I was growing up. It just didn't feel that way.
No, it was very entertaining.
I like Kenan Thompson, though, so that's why I try not to be hard on it. And Kel. Kel's done some stuff at our church here before. Okay, so welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Heard some great feedback from the last podcast, the one with Sanaz and Nathan. One of the funniest comments at first was someone was like, I thought this concept was really invasive. It shouldn't have happened. And they're like, now that it happened, I'm glad they liked it. But it was fun.
I didn't want to be
We got to do it again. You know about that one, Alex? What we did the last one? The one that dropped today? You saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you cut it?
Yeah, he cut some.
Oh, Alex been cutting them now.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, are you doing time codes?
Yeah. Oh no, I've been cutting them since Corey's been concentrating.
Oh yeah, nice. I never could tell. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but it looks great. It looks great. I love watching on podcasts. It sounds good on car too. All right, well we did, and then we got Aaron and Erica was our last podcast as well, talking about someone's marriage predicament. It's a little unique.
Yeah.
So I thought today we'll go back to everybody's always submitting questions. You can always do so by going to our Instagram. There's a link there Nancy always puts up. So I thought maybe we get one for those that are single, that aren't in a relationship or are dating. So I saw a couple good questions that a couple people asked. I'm going to conjoin probably 3 questions, and we'll talk about them for the next 45 minutes. All right,
do it.
All right. So here's I'm going to ask a couple questions. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
First one is, does the one exist? What questions should we ask on the first date and throughout the dating phase? And then what shouldn't you compromise as a believer when dating? All right.
Okay.
So, what one you want to talk on first, Ashley?
Let's do compromise. What shouldn't you compromise when dating?
What shouldn't you compromise dating as a believer when dating? All right.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on?
What are my thoughts on it? Oh, okay.
Oh, you want me to go
Yeah,
first?
you go first. I want to hear yours.
No, I mean, there's a lot of things, and there's another person that asked a question that I didn't bring up, but basically they said, let me try and find it, which to me my answer would go into this realm. We have dozens and dozens of questions. So someone said that I'm trying to look for it, and because I want to get the context right, but basically they said they've been living with someone for 2 years, and then the past year they've been talking about marriage, but every time she brings it up, he gets uncomfortable and doesn't want to talk about it anymore. So going into what shouldn't you compromise, and I'm assuming, again, all of our answers come from more of a Christian biblical approach. So we go by our guidebook, the Bible, as opposed to necessarily, sometimes we'll share our opinion, but a lot of times what we're trying to do is base layer based off what we think the Word of God is and what we're called to do as Christians. So, there's a lot of things you shouldn't compromise as a believer.
100%.
Number one is you shouldn't compromise your morals, whether you were with this person as a Christian or you became a Christian after you're with this person. But at some point, to be called a Christian and to be called one that an anointed one that follows Jesus, it means that we've been called out, we've been separated. So it means that your life, your lifestyle, and the way you carry yourself should look different from the world, and it should exhibit everything that Christ has called us to do. And so when it comes to relationship, it's the most perfect picture, and you can look at 1 Corinthians. Marriage is the most perfect picture of God's love for humanity that God could ever create. It's a symbol. And so marriage is a symbolism of God's marriage to humanity. And so there is a way to do marriage, and there's a way to not do marriage, in the same way that there's a way to know God and there's a way to not know God. That's what Jesus said. If you want to know the Father, you have to know the Son.
Yeah.
So that's Jesus saying you can know the Father, but there is a process in doing so, which is to know me.
Right.
And so in the same way with relationships, is there a healthy way to have a relationship in a marriage? And is there an unhealthy way to have a relationship in a marriage? Yes. The short answer is there is a process how to have a healthy relationship. One of the processes is through vow and commitment, because God makes a vow and a commitment to us. And so God expects you as a man, when you found the one that you want to take advantage of, not in a negative way, you want to take advantage of in the sense of you want to appreciate her body, you want to know her, you want to love her, you want to have sex with her, you want to have children with her. Well, in the same way that God makes a vow to humanity, and even if you study the Old Testament, when Israel would pursue other gods and they would worship other gods, God would say, Israel, you have divorced me from your heart because you have followed other gods.
Yeah.
And so God speaks when Israel rejects God and they follow idols. God says, hey, you're divorcing me.
Yeah.
You're breaking the covenant, the vow that I've made to you. So when God says, as humanity, if you want to mirror my love for you, the way you're going to do that is by choosing one person, and you are going to choose to be with them and love them and start a family and create a legacy. And so there's a lot of things you shouldn't compromise in the dating phase that actually, number one, are you starting the marriage early without the vow and the commitment? So what does the marriage look like starting early? It looks like living together. It looks like partaking in sexual exploitation with each other, exploration with each other before you make the vow and the commitment. It looks like taking care of each other before you make the vow and the commitment. That may be financial, emotional, whatever that may be in terms of regular needs. And then there also comes down to your belief system as well. And so Scripture tells you not to be unequally yoked. And so unequally yoked looks like a person who, if you're a Christian that goes to church and follows God and makes Jesus your Lord and Savior, then you don't want to date someone who, and just because they have a cross on their neck, just because they have a verse in their Instagram bio or on their TikTok bio, it says God first, that doesn't mean they're a Christian.
Right.
Their life has to exhibit it.
Right.
Their fruit has to exhibit it. So to me, there's a lot of things that you shouldn't compromise. And in the sense of it is how you pursue the Lord. You don't have to find someone that has to be at the same life journey as you and have the same verses memorized as you and yada, yada, yada. But you have to see that they have that same value and that same stream of heart that they're going towards. Yeah. And so those are and I could talk more, but those would be some of the onset things that I would say. Yeah. If you're any of those compromising positions, either A, collectively as a couple, you need to make the change, or you need to leave them. Yeah. You know,
absolutely.
As hard as that is, but I've never understood, if I was a girl or even a guy for that matter, and I was a guy who was trying to marry someone who didn't want to marry me. If I was with someone that after years of being together, they were unsure that they wanted to be like, but they're cool with getting a puppy with me. Yeah. They're cool with putting their name on a lease with me.
Holding hands, going to movies,
they're cool. Nights. They're cool with co-signing on an apartment with me. They're cool on all of those things.
Right. Splitting Christmases, going to your families, going to their families.
Exactly. They're cool with all those things.
Yeah.
And if there's trauma or whatever, you need to go to counseling. But outside of that, like, if you're saying, oh, there's just still more I need to see, like, you need to walk away. Like, you got to walk away. It rarely ends well when you are partaking in all of the enjoyments of life and family. And the one thing where they draw the line is marrying you.
Absolutely.
To do everything else.
Because the one thing of marrying the person, I think that you're settling, because you're settling with an expectation that you're going to be content with not being married. But also going back to what you said is the fact that the one thing that you don't want to do is get married. Well, then that leads me to believe that there are multiple signs within this relationship that says you are not the one. Because if you're not willing to commit to that person, that woman, that man, there are certain things that you're saying I can let brush by and I can brush it off because we're not married. Yeah. But if we're married, they act like things change. But at the end of the day, there's still grace and love. Because if you're able to show the grace and love in a relationship when you're dating through all these years, doing the sharing, doing all of this, I don't see what the difference is that you can't hold that same commitment of grace and love when you're married.
Yeah.
I think that people don't understand the same amount of when I hear people say, let's go back to the dating stage. Let's remember the dating stage where it was carefree, you're loving, you're this. What was there? There was a lot of grace because you were having a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of grace and there was a lot of love and then there was a lot of care. Although we still both had our eyes wide open and of seeing like our morals and our ethics aligning with each other, and that they did, we never compromised that. We never compromised our faith within our relationship. But there's other things too, where to say like, does Ashlee's BO smell a little bit stronger than the next woman? Yeah, probably. But those are things I can get, you know what I mean? There's things that I can get over. Does Adam leave his shoes around right when he walks in his house and he doesn't take them upstairs? Can I get over that? Yeah, those are things that we can talk and walk through. But is there grace through that? Because there is a level of grace of you, hey, I think we can work with, this is something that I can work with. I can work with Ashlee, telling Ashlee, hey, let me buy you some perfume. Hey, Adam, let me buy you a shoe rack. There's things that we do in the dating stage that we over glorify to say like, oh, we're good and content because we're dating. Well, then what's the difference between putting a ring on it?
Yeah.
If you're able to do all of these things and you're able to love that person, you're able to split the Christmases and decide those things, then what does it take to go down the altar, to vow and commit? What are you so afraid of? And that's what I would ask the person. What are you so afraid of making this commitment to somebody? And
well,
then
more than likely for him, it's not that he's afraid with anything. It's just nothing changes.
Well, in his eyes, nothing changes. But at the end of the day, his commitment becomes stronger. And his commitment becomes more
but for many men, they don't care about being committed.
Right. Then at the end of the day,
that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, they don't need to be in a, like you said, then the woman doesn't need to be in a relationship. If you're going around living together with him, I mean, I'm going to just shoot it straight. Like, dump him. He's not willing and wanting to commit to you. Don't waste your time on somebody that doesn't care about what you care about. Because if we were to date and you're like, oh, I don't plan on ever getting married, I'd be like, all right, bye. Yeah. This is not a desire. Like I want to get married. Like that's what. And I'm not going to compromise because I think I love you and I think you're the one. Absolutely not. If he keeps slamming that door in your face, why is he slamming the door in your face? Or is it God closing that door and him truly trying to show you this man's true colors and true intentions, that he has nothing else for you because he's getting probably home cooked meals. He's getting to lay with you whenever he wants. He's getting to feel like he has a home. But he's not making he's not doing what truly matters. And that's saying, I commit myself to you to love you like Christ loved the church.
But to me, that's like, for me, if you're a girl and the guy, there's a lot of problems that exist today. If a guy is not taking the lead.
Oh, 100%.
Like, you know, because I would even say, even if you tell him we should get married, if he goes, okay, tell me when and go pick your ring and I'll buy it. Like, that's not any better.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. But if it's also her always bringing it up.
But that's what I'm, so that's what I'm saying. Like, the marriage is not the fix.
Yeah,
you know?
No. Marriage
I know you're not saying that, but I'm saying not compromising. Like, like, just to say, okay, well, you heard it. Adam Ashlee said, like, yeah, I got to break up with you or we got to get married. And he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's go to K Jewelers and pick you up.
No, we've been in multiple cases where we've even told people who have had kids together, we were like, you still not get married. Like, this isn't going to be the fix to what is already technically broken. Let's go through healing through this to maybe this could be the answer, but it's not the end all be all. Marriage is not. At the end of the day, God wants who he has for you, and if it's been clearly showing signs.
So let's talk about for a guy for a second.
Okay.
Because that's for the girl.
Because he can
for a guy, for guys, because this is where guys do it. This is what girls do. Girls take lazy men and then they try to change move in with it's a project. Yeah. So they'll take lazy guy.
I can work on him. I can change him.
Yeah, or whatever. Like, we'll move in, and when you get married, eventually I love you. I want to. Trust me, I want to. You know, and they go, oh, he wants to. You know, and so and then when she really gets mad, he goes to Tiffany's and buys her a promise ring. You know, at 32 years old or whatever. So It's just like, so, and then she's like, oh, see, he made a promise to me. It's like, well, we're not, I did that to my girlfriend when I was 15 too, you know? So, that's for the guy, right? Now, let's just say you're a guy now and you're like, okay, what's the red flag? Like, what shouldn't I compromise with this girl? Maybe I'm living with a girl and maybe I need to decide whether I want to marry her or not. What should make me move out or not want to marry her? And I would say, which is very truthful, and it's in the cultural standard and in the secular world, it's the no you could talk about and it's the no you could look at. But for her, you're gonna have to look at her attitude and her submission, her ability to submit. You know, so
independent, strong women who don't think they need a man.
Yeah, or you're living with her, but she's unkind,
right?
And she's gossipy, right. And the Bible talks about this. You know, Apostle Paul says, look out for women that go from door to door and they gossip and they have nothing else to do all day and they, you know, like. And so as a guy, because what guys do is they'll marry women like this, and then they'll be like, man, my relationship's hell. She's always yelling at me. She's always on my neck. I'm never good enough. I can never do enough. I can never. And more than likely, whether you were living with that girl or dating that girl, that was that girl. Maybe as she gotten older, it's gotten louder. And as she has a family now, she got more confident to say what she wants or do what she wants. But when you were dating and you were trying to give her only the restaurant she wants, and you're just trying to always make her happy, and she's never happy, and we've counseled people like that before. We did premarital with couples where I've told the men, hey, before you marry this girl, there are some things you need to look out for, because every time we meet, she is telling you how to think.
Right.
And when you say, oh, I think our family should do this in the future, she cuts you off and says, no, we're not going to do that. And then you go, okay. So when you look at a girl, what's the red flag for a girl, and what should ladies look out is, I would advise any guy that if that's the girl that you're with, you got to move out. You got to break it off. But many guys, because guys are pretty fortuitous. Guys are fine with not being in a perfect relationship. Right. Guys will live with a bad relationship. Women will be in it and just complain about it a lot. But a guy will just like get quiet about it and just be like, well, that's my life, and I'll come home and they kind of shrink, right? Yeah. So a guy that will shrink like that is in the dating phase. You need to look out for that stuff. Always talking bad on everyone, never likes anything, always complaining about everything in the date. Now, if you married that person, you got to pray for her. You have to try to pastor her. You got to try to shout. You got to try to correct her. Yeah. You got to try to now begin to lead her. Like, there's certain things you got to live with, and you got to work through it, and you got to pray. More than anything, you got to pray for her and ask the Lord to work on her heart. Yeah. In the same way, if you married that guy like that, you need to pray for him, the guy that never leads, or the guy that never takes you out on dates or whatever. Like, you gotta pray for him. But if you're in that dating spell and you have the opportunity to get out of a relationship, whether you're in a male relationship like that or a female relationship like that, it very, very rarely does marriage consolidate and fix that stuff.
Right.
So if he's not leading and he's not dating you and he's not romanticizing you in a way that makes you feel special, not ridiculous. Like, he don't need to be renting out the Empire State Building or anything like that, but thinking about you and desiring you and you see an approach where he tries, then like that's what you need to look for. If he doesn't have all that, and then you're just like, wait, we should get married, and he's just like, yeah, fine, because here's what would happen more than likely for this individual, the one who's living together or the one who's just dealing with compromise. Almost always, when you put your foot down, either A, they'll put their tail in between their legs and they'll just be like, yeah, whatever you want, let's do it. Or B, they will leave you. And it'll show you what the relationship really meant. I've done that before. Over the years, I've had people who have become Christian, both the couples, and they would live together. And then sometimes what would happen, here's more, I'm giving a practical example. So a lot of the times it was the couple would decide and say, we're going to get married in 6 months or a year. So from the time being, we're going to either move out. I'm going to move out of the apartment or we're going to sleep in separate beds, whatever they decide. And we're not going to be intimate with each other until we get married. A lot of times what happens, if they're both not on board, one of them ends up leaving the relationship. Yeah. Because the moment you remove playing house from the equation,
it's not fun anymore.
It's not fun, but also reality sets in.
Yeah.
you can't drown it with the fantasy anymore.
Right.
And so now when you're not regularly having sex and all this stuff like that, you come to and you're like, oh, I don't think me and this person are for each other.
Right.
You know? And that's why people get married. They get married and then sex goes dry and then they go like, why did I marry this person?
Right.
You know? And so what I've found is like either what would happen is if you start to kind of, when you don't want to compromise anymore and you put your foot down, either that person is going to just be like fine and their heart's not going to be right, or they're going to leave.
Right.
And on the greatest outcome that could come from it, which would be my hope for most people, is but that person wakes up and realizes, hey, I need, either for a man, I really need to take lead, or for a girl, like I really need to work on my attitude or myself or the way I talk to X, Y, and Z. But that person all those people have to come to that on their own.
Right.
So you adding if you don't do this, I will leave the relationship. Yeah. It's not going to fix the problem.
And I also think, and even in our relationship when we were dating, we even had those conversations where there were the same conversations that we had kind of with Sanaz and Nathan. Like prior to us even getting married, it was where I looked you in the eyes and I was like, what do you like about me? Like, what is it that stands out about me more than everyone else that you've dated in the past? And we had those true hard conversations, because it's like, if you can be honest with me in that, and obviously we weren't having sex, like be honest with me to say like what makes me stand out and what doesn't make me stand out. And what is a weakness that you see in me? Because I think that'll explain the truth. Because if they don't have a true foundation of what they really like about you, they're just enjoying what they're doing. Like you said, they're enjoying playing the house. If they're not like, well, I love that you're very caring, you're very intentional, you're always on time, you're always asking me this, you know my love languages, you know my affirmations and all this ins and outs. And if they're like, well, I think you're really pretty, you're like, oh heck, run for the hills. There's nothing.
Or we have
there.
fun. Like I like going to Dave and Buster's with you. So you go to Dave and Buster's with a dog. You know,
right.
And I feel like we're in a culture of, you guys are describing like situationships. Now there's like a name for it, right?
Is that a thing?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where it's like,
situationships.
you're not in a committed relationship, but it's like, oh, I'm in this situationship. But that doesn't make it a relationship just because you add the ship to it.
Right. That sounds like a situation. Like
and that's what I think we need to break away from as you know, being single and dating. It's like, that's what you just stand with your worth and your value.
Yeah.
You know, Ashlee, you and I have had conversations, and even with you, Pastor Adam. So it's like, I think that's what we need to learn on our end, in the dating scene. It's like learning to value yourself so you don't compromise with the men or the women you're dating.
All right, everybody, welcome to our advertisement.
Yeah.
So you're watching our episode. We did a short break.
Yep.
What do we got a little break for, Ashlee?
Oh, something really, really exciting that when you came home and told me about the news, I was overjoyed, and I hope you had 30 pieces, but you only had one, but it's okay. We are going to be talking about our new partnership.
Yes.
With an amazing jeweler.
Yes. So we have big news. We've teamed up with the exceptional jeweler, Aaron Barnett, to bring you a unique jewelry experience, from precious metals to custom creations. Aaron has it all, whether you're treating yourself or surprising a loved one. So it could be for you or someone you love, okay? Mother, grandmother, sibling, spouse, a loved one. His jewelry is a testament to cherished moments. As part of our community, you get special discounts and a chance to visit his private showroom in Los Angeles. So for anniversaries, birthdays, or just because, discover Aaron's jewelry in our show notes. Elevate your relationships with exquisite pieces from our partner, Aaron Barnett. It's a great relationship that we have, because now we can offer great discounts to our Beyond I Do community to hook them up. And so you visit, like we said, visit the show notes, and let's get back into the show.
You're dating.
It's very it's very easy to get caught in settling. It's very, the reality is, like, a lot of these relationships that exist today come from uh-ohs. Hey, we had a passionate night after a glass of wine, and then we had sex and we got a kid, and we just thought we had to get married. It's like that exists a lot today. And so to me, going back to the question, if you define your walk in your life with your faith and your values, and you treat that as the most rational thing that you have for your life,
100%.
then it's not that you'll never get in trouble, but it will more often than not keep you out of trouble, because if you keep that as a boundary, because what was happening, like for me, when I was out of my serious relationship and then I was trying to date girls to see how do I do things different? What do I do? What I found was, if I don't create some type of a boundary system of what I'm looking for, then I will fall desperate to the desire to just wanting to be valued by somebody,
right?
Right. And there is a cultural standard. I mean, I had girls that would, get on top of my lap on the first date. And it's very easy as a man to lose all of your, boundaries and your conviction when a pretty girl on the first date is sliding over in the car. Yeah. And then she's like, you gonna take me out again tomorrow? And then all of a sudden by Friday you have a girlfriend. Right?
Yeah.
So girls know what they're doing. And then they're surprised that
I love this story. This is so fun. Tell more.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah. And so the next thing you know, you're getting an apartment together. But it's like the guy, he don't know how he got where he got.
Right.
To the girl, she knows
like,
exactly
she played
how
it
they
out.
got there.
Yeah.
He don't know.
Right.
He went from taking you to Dave and Buster's to you sliding over in the back seat to then all of a sudden at the pound getting a dog together, and then like, we should get an apartment now. And then he's like, if you keep doing what you're doing, yeah, I'll get an apartment together.
Right.
And then she's like, when are you gonna marry me? And he's just like, whoa, I didn't know that was the next step.
Right.
Because you just kept bringing the ball. So like, I was having girls that was their progress. Yeah. That's what they were doing. And so I had to say, okay, I mean, if a girl makes a move towards me at all, if I'm taking her on a date, first date, second date, she's crossed off the list. I have to make the first move,
Yeah.
And it took months till I made the first move with you and gave you first kiss.
Yeah.
You never made a move on me. You never tried to hold my hand. You never tried to put your hand on my thigh. You never tried to use your physical nature, which would immediately just blind me, for any of that.
Right.
And that was because very early on we were talking about it. I was saying where I was at, where I wanted, and you really respected that. Yeah. And you really moved towards that. But for a lot of the girls that I was dating in church, they were, hey, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I just bought this cute little pajama set and I'm just laying in bed right now. You're like, you know what you're doing right now, right? You're on Facebook DMing. Back then, you're on Facebook. Yeah. You're Facebook DMing, 11 years ago. You're on Facebook DMing, and she's just like, yeah, I'm just, I just had a glass of wine. I'm in my little cute little Victoria's Secret. And now all of a sudden, as a man, your mind's wandering. Yeah. You're like, oh, really? What's it look like? What
Send pictures.
And she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so she's thinking, I'm reeling you in. I'm bagging you. And for him, he's thinking, well, I'm getting a taste of pie. Yeah. That we call it that warm apple pie. He's like, I get a taste of pie. He's like, I get to enjoy her. Why would I do anything else? Why would I? And so for me, the first couple times that I fell spell to some of those things, when I ended it, these girls would act like I broke their heart.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd be like, well, we're just talking. Yeah, but we made out in the back of your seat of your car. And I'm like, you're the one who got in the back seat. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But to her, she's thinking I led her on.
Gotcha.
And so now I'm going, I see where this whole thing comes from. Like, I got to create some boundaries.
Right. 100%.
And the moment she breaks the boundaries, or even I break them, I got to tell myself, this has to put to a stop.
Yeah.
Then you and I start dating, and then as we get serious, like obviously we're kids and we would go too far at times, blah, blah, and we ended up getting engaged and married. But that, to me, that's a different scope. Yeah. That's not early dating phase. Yeah. This is you and I are actually deciding, like we have more of an obsession for each other because we're falling in love. And that's a different scale. That's a different note. Which there should still be Christian boundaries and stuff. But to me, that's different. Early onset dating, which is where a lot of this stuff comes from. Yeah. It's just fast progression, right? And so what I had to do early on, I take, probably maybe I talked to 6 or 7 girls in between you and my serious relationship, but I started realizing like I have to put these Christian boundaries on, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up, like Nancy just said, I'm going to end up settling.
Absolutely.
Or she's going to end up settling.
Absolutely.
And she's going to be like, I didn't want to marry a pastor. I want to, it's like, and then I'm like, because I'm a good talker.
Yeah.
So I'm very romantic. So I'd even be able to easily, because a lot of men aren't romantic. So with girls, I was very easy to bring flowers or chocolate, and I could even blind her.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
those respect and that boundary as a believer helps you be able to make the rational decisions on how to move forward. So early date. So talking on that, unless anyone has anything else on it, going back to the other question for the person is like, so those first couple dates, what kind of questions or things should you be looking for?
Well, it's so funny. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me about how she's been on a couple dates.
Yeah.
And she's like, Ashley, I don't know, one, if I'm truly attracted to him. Or because she was like, I saw his friend, and I was like, he's way more attractive. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. That sucks.
Dang.
Sucks to be him. But so I was talking to her, and I was just like, okay, so how are your conversations? She's like, they're great. We've done a couple dates, and the conversations have been great. And I said, so what's your reserve? And why are you bringing this up? Because there must be a reserve, or you wouldn't have brought it up. You would have just said everything's going great in the way that I want it to go. She's just like, I don't know, one, if I'm attracted to him. And she goes, but I know that attraction can grow. Yeah. Obviously, the more you get to know some people. Yeah. She goes, and then I asked her, and she showed me her technically her list. It wasn't a crazy list, but basically her non-compromising, non-negotiable list. And obviously, the first one was faith. And so I told her, I said, I think the next conversation that you guys have, because I said, have you had in-depth conversations? You've gone on 4 dates now. I said, have you had, in your texting, I was like, have you had in-depth conversation? And I said, she's like, not really. And I said, I think it's an appropriate time. You've been on 4 dates. You guys text back and forth daily. I said, to have an in-depth conversation and ask him, what are
so
his...
they had never had an authentic conversation?
They've had, like, yes and no. Like, they talk about faith. They talk about, he goes to church, all of this, all that, what she does, and everything like that. So, like, in-depth in that way, but not in a way of, like, where do you see your life? Where do you see our future? Yes, nothing like that yet. So I said, I think this conversation needs to be had. Yeah. I said, as far as... Because at the end of the day, I told her, too, one, obviously the physical attraction can grow, but 2, if that's something that you really want to be physically attracted to the person that you're going to marry, it's a toggle sometimes. Sometimes you're finding yourself, okay, then the other things may be compromised on those ends. Yeah. But I told her, I said, oh, he's handsome. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think you're in your own flesh.
It's crazy that you girls talk about this stuff.
Literally.
It's like me talking to Gabe when he first started dating. See, I don't think we ever is she pretty? Guys don't.
Yeah, and so I was like, I think he's handsome. And so we kept having the conversation. And I said, but I do think that you have to have a true, genuine conversation on his top 5 in his life. What falls in line as his top 5 things that are the most important to him in his life right now, and what that looks like, and genuinely say, I want to know your answer as far as not based on me, not based on where mine is, because I believe that she's made it very clear on where hers is faith family. She's like, Ashley, I don't know where his faith is, and if he's only having these conversations with me because he knows how strong my faith is. Yeah. And so I told her that's the hard part, because sometimes we allow, like you said, God first, Jeremiah 29:11, whatever, John 3:16, like those are basic Bible scriptures, but can you give me in depth? Can you tell me what services you go to? Can you tell me you volunteer? Can you tell me you serve? Because as a Christian and as a Christian walk, those are things that are important. Like, my faith is important, but what does your faith walk look like? And that's kind of what she was like, well, he has this job, so he's busy, so sometimes his schedule. And I'm like, okay. But when his days are free, because not everybody works on a Sunday and a Wednesday, is it a priority?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I told her, I said, because if he's able to tell you that and lead you in that way, then you know he can lead you. So I said, my concern is right now is by everything you said, I don't know if he can lead you. That would be my concern.
Yeah.
And that's my number one for you as a woman. Can he lead you?
I think if you would have asked me if we were dating, if you would have said, if we were dating, if you would have asked me, hey, if I didn't go to church for 2 months, what would you say? Like if you asked me that about you?
Yeah.
You want to know what my answer would have been?
Yeah.
I'll break up with you. That would have been my answer.
To this day, we have these conversations all the time. There are times where I'm just like, oh, it's Sunday. I just want to be at home. And then I look over at you and you're not even biting. And I'm like, I'm going to church.
It's just,
Because there any other day that you can take off. There's so many excuses to not go to church. There's so many excuses to not, my
but
buddies
to me,
threw
like
me this,
if you're getting to know someone, like those are kind of the,
if I were to say,
me, those are kind of the hypotheticals you could ask to see where.
I mean, I was partying on a Saturday and still went to church. Church in my faith, it was still there. But
I mean, like you could see where a person's value is just by in like through organic conversation. You could ask hypotheticals, that's where I'm saying an example. Like she could say, like you could, if you're asking someone that says they're Christian,
that's a great
question. You're like,
I
got a funny question. If I didn't go to church for a month or two, what'd you say? And if he's like, I don't care, it's your life, you do whatever you want. Like for me as a man, like that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
if you're a leader,
a
man should say, because ask him the same question. If she said, what if I didn't go to the gym for 2 months and I gained 15 pounds? What would you say? He'd be like, well, I would think of a nice way I'd try to get you out on a hike, and I'd probably try to get you,
Luckily, we were married.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, he would offer, like, if it was something that was important to him,
right,
and you stopped engaging with it, then he would offer a way that he would try to get, because that's. Men will do that. Men, if men see someone coming off track, like they'll come alongside and make suggestions or whatever, like, because we're problem solvers. So he will reveal really fast if he would say, well, I don't care if you go to church. That's up to you. That's your life. Like, because if you would have asked me that, if you would have brought that hypothetical to me, I would have been like, I mean, I'll give you like 2 Sundays to miss. After that, you and I ain't rocking. If this ain't a partner to you, like mine was on you serving, which to me is a little, it's a little deeper.
Right.
But at the bare minimum, if you're a Christian, regular engagement with your faith in some type of way, Bible reading, attending church, whatever, like that should be able to show in some way, shape. Someone's totally different religion. I mean, I say it without being mean. Good luck. Like
that part.
You want to, even if you're dating someone that's Catholic and you're Protestant, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Mormon, anything else, atheist, good luck if you're a Christian. It's just, it doesn't go well. If someone was atheist and said, I'm dating a Christian, what should I do? I'd tell them, break up with them unless you're interested in exploring who Jesus is, because it ain't going to go good, even on the flip side.
Right.
So,
we even had that conversation when we were dating, because I got my master's and I was going to apply to be an athletic director. And it was like traveling with teams. And I was like, I don't know and I brought that to you. I would be like, I don't know what my schedule would look like. And you were like, are Sundays compromised? And I'm like, yeah, they'd be. He's like, then I don't think
like,
that's
you ain't rocking with
job.
me.
Yeah, he's like, I don't.
We were married. We were engaged.
We were
so I'm
engaged.
like, we might not be getting married. Figure your life out.
Figure my life out. This idiot.
You want to get with me? But to me, that's what it's like. It's like, I'm like, to me, if you find value in yourself, it's like you want to get with me.
Yeah.
You in the same regard. You should be like, you want to get with me?
Right.
Then you need a lead.
Yeah.
And if you don't lead, and I'm the one, because you said that early on when we were dating, you're like, every guy I've ever been with.
Oh, I have led.
You had told me, you were like, I had led. She told me this by the second, third date. She's like, I've led every guy I've ever been with. No guy has ever romanced me. No guy has ever took me on a date. Like, I'm telling you, Ashlee has dated millionaires, guys with penthouse apartments, guys play for some of the biggest teams in the world. Never took her, like, there was one time I was dating Ashlee. She's like, I've never been to a nice steakhouse before. I'm like, you've dated all these named guys and they've never taken you to a nice restaurant. And you were like, no, it was just quick bite to eat and then back at their place or whatever, And so there was stuff like that to me, you actually had a low expectation with me in that sense. But to me as a man, I'm hearing, I'm hearing, oh, then I have to this woman wants to be led. Now she may fight me because she's always led,
Right.
But you had told me like I had always encouraged the guy to go to church. I had always told him to go to church. I had always brought him to church, and then you're like, and then
it was miserable. I don't know how people do it,
but it's all you knew,
right?
It's all you knew at the time.
But that goes back to the compromising as far as like what would you not compromise? And it's like it was so easy dating someone who truly had a foundation in Christ and loved God genuinely, that wanted to be at church, that didn't look at it as a burden, didn't say like, oh gosh, if I go out, then that means, oh gosh, I got to drag myself in on Sunday. You know what I mean? So that was something that I never knew that should have been so easy. And so I was fortunate enough, obviously, to marry you in the sense of someone who knew their walk, who knew their word more than I did, because I knew the bare minimum, and I was acting like I knew it all compared to them because they knew nothing. Yeah. And so when it comes to that, I think that if you are trying to do the right biblical walk with Christ, like we've been talking about, the compromise, you cannot compromise your faith. Especially because, I mean, we've even had conversations with couples before where we've looked at them and we've done counseling and we asked both of them, and they were coming in there because they were butting heads. And the first question you asked them, and I was shooketh within my soul, you said, I want to ask before we get started, where do you guys both believe your faith and walk is with Christ?
Oh, give me a scale to 1 to 10.
Give me a scale 1 to 10. And mind you,
and I ask this all the time.
They could not stand each other. Like, even being there, I'm like, you guys must have drove separately. Yeah. They go, we believe we're both at a 7. And I go, the amount of disgrace and distaste you have for each other, there's no way on God's green earth that if you think that you believe that God is within you and your percent is 7, which is high, in your walk, and you're saying, glorify God, I have grace, I have forgiveness, I have love, but I can't stand this man, your walk can't be at a 7. He's probably like at a 2. So those are things too, I think that like, ask where's your walk? Give me a scale, 1 to 10. What does it look like to you? Do you think it's strong? Explain it. And there's judgment free.
Because if he plays if he plays Fortnite and you ask him on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at Fortnite, he can have an answer right away. He's going to have an answer. He's going to have an answer really fast. Oh, I'm like at a 6. I'm no ninja. I'm not, like. Right. He's going to know right away.
Exactly. He's going to have a scale.
Yeah. And she is, if she claims she's a person of faith, you know. And you say, explain it. Well, what made you come to that? And they can't explain it. And they're like, oh, it's just a number I picked out of the sky. Then you're like, this is more important to me than it is to you. And that relationship may not go well. But what a girl gets caught up if he says, oh, it's like a 2, but I'm interested. She's like, yes, okay, I got him.
Can work on him. It's like, girl, no, he a 2. He about to be a -2. He ain't interested in nothing.
But there's many couples we sit with, and they'll say 6, 9, whatever. Yeah. But when the ones are honest that are like really wanting to get help, they'll be like a 2, and I could be better. And, and then you talk, and you're like, no, you're actually like a 5. Yeah. And you can't really accurately scale your faith, but that's just a loose like parameter just to see where a person's thinking about their faith. Because like if you asked me, hey Adam, where's your faith, I'd probably be like, oh, it's like a 6. I could be like, God deserves so much more, 100%. Blah blah blah. But if someone's like 9, then you're like, well, yeah, let me see, like let's see about that. But if they're honest, they're like 2 or 3, I could do better. You're like, you're probably closer to a 5, 6, like, because you're honest. You're being honest with yourself. Yeah. Or they're brand new to church and they're just very aware and they're like, a 1. I'm new to church, which is great. Somewhere to move. Somewhere to start at. Yeah. So,
no, that's great. I mean, I didn't compromise anything with you, baby. Except them shoes that be staying on the bottom of that floor.
The what? The shoes? What shoes? The what?
The shoes I gotta be taken up to your closet all the time.
Oh yeah.
See that ain't.
Well, you got ADHD.
No, I do.
Someone with
ADHD.
So
and someone who's
a true OCD medical condition
to clean all day. Every day.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
It's great time, babe.
How about love you.
Love you.
Yeah, love you so much.